The MotoGP paddock thrives on whispers, but every so often a rumour lands with the force of a seismic shock. This is one of those moments. Fabio Quartararo. Yamaha's talisman, their last world champion, and the rider once seen as the cornerstone of their future, is now poised to redraw the competitive map of the premier class. If confirmed on track as decisively as it now appears on paper, this switch will not simply be a rider transfer. It signals a potential power shift ahead of MotoGP's 2027 technical reset, a reset already being viewed internally by manufacturers as a once-in-a-decade opportunity to leap from crisis to contention or fall further behind. For Yamaha, the implications are stark. For Honda, it is a statement of intent, and for Quartararo himself, it is the boldest gamble of a career that began in the premier class as an unexpected opportunity in 2019, and may now be defined by one of the most consequential departures in recent MotoGP history. According to information gathered, Honda's factory MotoGP project has presented Fabio Quartararo with a 2-season contract covering 2027 and 2028. The Frenchman is therefore set to leave Yamaha at the end of 2026, bringing an end to an 8-season relationship with the Iwata manufacturer that began with his surprise Premier Class debut and reached its peak with the 2021 world title. Quartararo remains Yamaha's last MotoGP world champion. Since that triumph, however, the trajectory has been downward, despite the manufacturer's promises of increased investment and renewed technical effort. Commitments publicly reinforced during his contract renewal announced in April 2024, the M1's performance gains have not matched expectations at the sharp end of the grid, particularly in comparison to Ducati's benchmark machinery. Statistically, Quartararo's Yamaha era has been significant. 11 victories, 32 podium finishes, and 21 pole positions in factory colours. Yet numbers alone cannot mask the mounting frustration that has characterised recent seasons, as development strides proved insufficient to restore him to consistent title contention. The timing of his departure aligns with MotoGP's forthcoming regulatory overhaul in 2027. Next season, 2026, will act as a transitional year across the grid, with manufacturers balancing current competitiveness against the development of prototypes designed for the new technical framework. Most notably, the shift to 850cc engines and revised technical parameters. The critical question now is how deeply Yamaha will commit to the next generation project and whether Quartararo's exit alters those priorities. His disillusionment has coincided with changes within Yamaha's executive structure. The departure of longtime team figure Lynn Jarvis at the end of 2024 and the arrival of Paolo Pavaggio brought a different management dynamic. Quartararo himself hinted at a more distant relationship at executive level, stating late in 2025 that his focus remained on the engineers in the garage rather than boardroom discussions. An indication of where he felt real progress or the lack of it was determined. Honda, meanwhile, now faces its own strategic decision regarding Quartararo's future teammate. The current factory pairing of Joan Mir and Luca Marini are both out of contract at the end of 2026. Honda is understood to be evaluating multiple factors: Mir's long-term motivation after a turbulent spell, and Marini's strong working relationship with Honda's increasingly influential Japanese engineering faction. Beyond those two, the rider market has been alive with speculation in recent months, with names such as Pedro Acosta and Jorge Martin repeatedly linked to the second RC214V seat. Martin, in particular, was reported to have explored an early exit from Aprilia in 2025, following talks with Honda, though contractual resistance and championship intervention halted that pathway at the time. From a competitive standpoint, this move is less about 2026 results and far more about positioning for 2027. Quartararo is effectively betting that Honda's technical reset will be more successful than Yamaha's. That is a calculated risk. Honda has endured its own prolonged struggles, but historically has demonstrated an ability to rebuild aggressively when regulations change, often with a rider capable of leading development with precision and sensitivity at the front. Quartararo's riding style, built around corner speed, front-end feel, and technical feedback, could be precisely what Honda requires as it shapes a new generation machine from a clean sheet. In that sense, this is not just a signing of a fast rider, it is the acquisition of a development leader. For Yamaha, the situation borders on structural crisis. Losing a rider of Quartararo's caliber is not merely a sporting setback, it affects technical direction, sponsor confidence, and internal morale. Unless the 2027 project delivers a clear step, the manufacturer risks entering the new era without a proven reference rider around whom to build. Politically, the paddock temperature rises. High-profile rider movements tied to regulation shifts often trigger chain reactions across contracts, alliances, and manufacturer strategies. With multiple factory seats opening simultaneously for 2027, Quartararo's decision could become the first domino in a reshaping of the grid. In short, this is more than a transfer story. It is an early signal of how the battle lines for MotoGP's next era are being drawn. And Fabio Quartararo has chosen to place his bet on Honda's revival rather than Yamaha's recovery. What makes this development even more compelling is the psychological dimension behind Quartararo's decision. For several seasons, he has carried the burden of being Yamaha's sole consistent reference point, often extracting results that seem to exceed the bike's underlying potential. That role brings status but also isolation, particularly when rivals on stronger packages fight for wins while you fight for damage limitation. From Honda's perspective, the signing represents more than a sporting acquisition. It is reputational repair. The manufacturer that once set the gold standard in MotoGP has, in recent years, been associated more with rebuilding than dominating. Securing a rider still in his prime and one widely respected for his technical clarity sends a message to engineers, sponsors, and competitors alike that Honda does not intend to enter the 2027 era as an outsider. There is also the stylistic contrast to consider. Quartararo built his success on a machine famed for fluid corner speed and front-end confidence, whereas Honda's recent prototypes have demanded physical override and adaptation from their riders. The convergence point in 2027 will be fascinating. Does Honda reshape its philosophy around Quartararo's strengths, or does he evolve his approach to master a more aggressive, rear-driven concept?